Ethan never imagined that his life would become so strange, so unpredictable, or so beautifully complicated. Only 3 months ago, he had been an ordinary human living an ordinary life on Earth, working long hours, eating cheap food, and dreaming about worlds he would never see. But everything changed the day he was accepted into the interspecies cultural exchange program. Suddenly, he was flown to a distant star system, placed in a shining alien city, and given a shared apartment with a being from a world he had only read about in old research books. Her name was Liren. She was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Her tall figure moved like floating silk. Her silver skin glowed faintly in dim light, and her eyes shimmered like liquid moons. Every gesture she made, from a soft tilt of her head to the slow rise of her long tendrils, seemed full of meaning and emotion. And yet, despite her elegance, she had a warm and gentle presence that made Ethan feel safe, something he never expected from an alien species. They lived together peacefully, though awkwardly, each learning small pieces of the other's world. Ethan taught her about coffee, music, and late-night jokes. Liren taught him about glowing fruits, star songs, and the quiet beauty of Yerian nights. Slowly, they built a strange but comforting bond. Ethan felt relaxed around her, until the morning when everything changed. It happened on an ordinary day, a day that began like all the others. Ethan woke up late, stumbled to the shower, and enjoyed the warm water running down his tired muscles. He hummed a random tune, feeling half asleep and fully comfortable in the privacy of their shared home. When he finished, steam followed him as he stepped out of the bathroom with nothing but a small towel in hand. His mind was already wandering, thinking about breakfast, new translation lessons, and maybe some Earth music to share with Liren. He walked toward his room, naked, dripping unaware. He didn't expect anyone to be there. He didn't expect the door to slide open. He definitely didn't expect Liren to walk in at that exact moment. Time froze. Liren stopped at the doorway, her glowing eyes widening. Her tendrils slowly lifted, rising like soft silver flames, a sign of sudden emotion. Ethan had learned enough to know that this gesture did not mean fear or anger. It meant delight. Ethan panicked instantly. His face went hot, his heart dropped into his stomach, and he stumbled backward, grabbing the small towel and pulling it in front of him. He felt like he could die right there from embarrassment. He opened his mouth, trying to speak, but only a broken squeak came out. Liren, however, did not look shocked in the human way. She looked entranced. Her glowing cheeks brightened with a soft pink hue, something Ethan had never seen before. Her eyes followed the shape of him, not in a disrespectful way, but in a calm, curious, and strangely admiring manner. "I apologize," she whispered softly. Her voice was warm, almost gentle. "I did not know humans were shaped so beautifully." Ethan nearly choked. Beautiful? Was she serious? He clutched the towel tighter, wishing the universe would open a wormhole under his feet. "Liren, you're supposed to knock." Her head tilted with graceful confusion. "I thought you were asleep, and this is your rest cycle, yes? I only came to ask if you wished for breakfast." He turned redder than a sunburn. "Next time, please knock." Liren nodded politely, but she didn't move. She was still looking at him with fascination, her tendrils dancing slowly. Only when Ethan cleared his throat loudly did she blink and step back. "I will knock next time," she promised. Then her voice softened, almost like she didn't want to leave. "Do not feel shame, Ethan. On ear, the natural form is not hidden. It is celebrated." With that, she quietly slid the door closed. Ethan collapsed onto his bed, burying his face in his hands. He could still feel the heat of her gaze on him, still hear her voice calling him beautiful. He didn't know if he should laugh, cry, or hide forever. One thing was certain: their peaceful routine would never be the same again. And deep in his chest, beneath all the embarrassment, something new began to grow. The next 2 days felt different, quiet in a way Ethan had never experienced before. Their shared apartment, once full of small laughs and warm conversations, now echoed with an uncomfortable silence that neither of them knew how to break. Ethan moved around the rooms carefully, avoiding sudden movements, avoiding eye contact, avoiding everything. Liren moved differently too. Her steps were softer, her tendrils tucked close to her neck, showing she was trying to hide her emotions. She still prepared glowing tea in the morning, still placed fresh fruit on the table for him, still smiled when they passed each other, but the peace between them had shifted. Ethan could feel it in every breath. Sometimes he caught her stealing a glance at him, her eyes lingering for a second longer than normal. But when he looked back, she would turn away quickly, as if ashamed. Other times, she seemed to want to speak, but no words came out. Her hands would tremble just a little, and her glow would soften like fatting moonlight. Ethan hated the feeling. He wasn't angry with her. He wasn't upset. But the memory of standing naked in front of her, while she looked at him with so much interest, kept replaying in his head like a broken recording. The worst part wasn't that she saw him. The worst part was how she looked at him, with a kind of admiration he didn't know how to handle. One evening, the silence became too heavy for him. He was sitting in the small living room, looking out at the alien city glowing outside the windows. The buildings sparkled like crystals, and floating lights drifted through the air like soft fireflies. It should have been peaceful. It should have calmed him. But it didn't. He kept thinking about Liren, her glowing cheeks, her trembling tendrils, her soft voice saying, "Do not feel shame." He sighed and ran his fingers through his hair. Then he heard footsteps. Liren appeared from the hallway, holding a small container of starfruit tea. Her glow flickered nervously when she saw him. She hesitated, standing near the doorway as if unsure whether she should enter the room or leave him alone. Ethan took a slow breath. "Liren, you can sit if you want." Her eyes lit up gently. With delicate steps, she moved closer and sat across from him. The tea in her hands trembled slightly. Ethan noticed it instantly. She was nervous, too. He couldn't pretend anymore. "Liren," he began softly, "about what happened. I didn't mean for things to become weird." She lowered her gaze, her glow dimming. "I am the one who caused discomfort. I violated your privacy. I did not understand the human need for personal space." "No," Ethan said quickly, shaking his head. "It's not that. I don't know how humans are supposed to react when someone sees them like that." Her tendrils curled tightly. On ear, it is not considered shameful to see someone's natural form. It is considered beautiful, honest. But I did not realize humans saw it differently. Ethan looked at her closely. There was sadness in her voice, guilt too, and something else, something soft and vulnerable. "You weren't disrespectful," he said gently. "It just surprised me a lot." Liren finally looked up. Her moonlit eyes shimmered with a mix of hope and fear. "Do you resent me for it?" Ethan hesitated for only a moment. "No," he whispered, "I don't resent you at all." Liren's glow brightened just slightly. She let out a slow breath, almost relieved. Still, the silence returned, but it was softer now, less heavy. Ethan could feel the weight lifting between them, but something still lingered, something he didn't understand until he saw the way she looked at him when she thought he wasn't aware. There was longing in her eyes, curiosity, admiration, maybe even something deeper. And Ethan felt something inside him shift in response. Something warm, something dangerous, something he wasn't ready to name yet. They sat together for a long time, sharing quiet air instead of words. The alien city glittered outside as the room filled with the gentle scent of starfruit tea. Finally, Liren spoke in a whisper, barely louder than the hum of the city. "I did not mean to hurt you, Ethan. I only reacted. In my world, beauty is rare, and you—" She paused, searching for words. "You are beautiful in a way I have never seen." Ethan's heart pounded softly. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to breathe. All he knew was that the silence between them wasn't empty anymore. It was full of unspoken feelings, warm, confusing, and painfully real. The days after that morning stretched on with a strange tension. Ethan tried to focus on his studies, on the small routines he had built in the alien city, but every glance at Liren reminded him of the moment she had walked into his room. Not the embarrassment, but the feeling of being seen, truly seen. Liren, on her side, moved with careful grace. She was always near, always attentive, but she avoided lingering in places where she might catch him off guard again. Her tendrils remained close to her body, coiled in quiet restraint. She laughed softly at his jokes, helped him prepare meals, and even left little gifts, a glowing flower here, a hand-carved trinket there. But the air between them was still thick, unspoken. Ethan noticed everything. The way she hesitated before speaking, the way her eyes shifted when he turned toward her, the way she seemed to be holding herself back. And yet in small moments he caught flashes of her delight. A soft smile that appeared when she thought he wasn't looking, a gentle glow that pulsed when he passed near, tiny signs that revealed her admiration. One evening, after a long day of language lessons, Ethan found Liren on the balcony. She was leaning on the railing, staring at the stars with a quiet, reflective glow. He hesitated, unsure if he should interrupt her thoughts, but something inside him urged him to sit beside her. "You like it here?" he asked softly. She didn't turn to answer immediately. Her gaze stayed on the swirling stars above. "It is different from home, beautiful in its own way," she said finally. Her voice was gentle, almost wistful. Ethan nodded, trying to match her calm. "I guess we both have worlds we're trying to get used to." She tilted her head, her silver tendrils shifting slightly. "And humans, you adjust slowly, but your emotions are strong. That is admirable." Ethan felt his chest tighten. Her words were innocent, casual even, but the tone, the way she said it, made his heart feel like it was both soaring and breaking at the same time. "I don't know if I deserve that," he admitted, almost whispering. "Sometimes I feel weak." Her gaze softened. She finally turned to him, eyes glowing faintly. "Weakness is not shameful. Humans who feel, who show emotion, are stronger than most. You have survived so many things, yet you allow yourself to be open. That is courage." Ethan swallowed hard. He had never been praised like that before. Not for bravery, not for resilience, and certainly not for simply existing in his own body. But Liren's words didn't feel like pity or politeness. They felt honest, heartfelt, and terrifyingly intimate. He looked away, unsure if he could meet her gaze again. "It's hard to be brave all the time," he said softly. "You don't need to be brave all the time," she said, a faint smile on her lips. "You only need to be yourself, that is enough." For the first time in days, Ethan felt a spark of calm. The tension that had been pressing on him like gravity began to ease, replaced by something warm and strange. He wanted to reach out, to touch her tendrils gently, to connect in a way he had never dared. But he hesitated. Liren seemed to sense his hesitation. She stayed still, letting him decide, giving him the space he needed. That quiet patience only deepened the feeling in his chest, this mix of longing, admiration, and something he couldn't yet name. They sat there together for a long while, watching the stars blink in the alien sky. Neither spoke much, but the silence was no longer uncomfortable. It was full of understanding, of emotions carefully balanced between fear and desire, embarrassment and delight. Finally, Liren broke the quiet. "Ethan, that morning," she said softly, "I want you to know I did not look with disrespect. I looked with appreciation. You are human, yes, but also something more. I do not understand it fully, but it moved me." Ethan's heart skipped. He didn't know how to respond. Words failed him. He simply nodded, his throat tight. She smiled faintly, just enough to make him feel that strange warmth again. "You need not say anything. I wanted only for you to know. And perhaps someday you might see what I see." Ethan's eyes stayed on hers, reading the subtle light in them, feeling the emotions she couldn't hide completely. His own emotions were mirrored back at him, soft but undeniable. In that moment, he realized something he hadn't understood before. The embarrassment of being seen nude that morning was nothing compared to the vulnerability he now felt. Knowing that Liren, this alien from a distant world, truly cared for him deeply, without shame, without hesitation, and without judgment. It was terrifying, and it was beautiful. The city below continued to shimmer, the wind whispered through the balcony, and two very different beings sat together, bound by emotions neither had fully named. The first cracks in their emotional distance had begun, delicate but strong, ready to grow into something neither of them could have anticipated. And Ethan knew one thing for certain: his life would never be the same again. The morning sun painted the alien city in soft purples and golds, casting long shadows across their apartment. Ethan woke to the quiet hum of machinery outside and the gentle, silver glow of Liren moving through the kitchen. She was humming softly, a song from her world, and the tendrils along her head swayed lightly. For a moment he just watched her, feeling that familiar warmth in his chest. Breakfast was quiet. Liren placed plates of glowing fruit and steaming pastries on the table. Ethan tried to focus on his meal, but his mind kept returning to the morning 2 days ago. The moment she had walked into his room, the way her eyes had lingered, the strange, tender delight in her gaze. He looked up and she was watching him, not in a prying way, but in a careful, hesitant way, like she didn't want to intrude. Ethan's heart skipped. I want to apologize," he said softly. "I've been awkward lately. I'm sorry if I made things uncomfortable." Liren shook her head slowly, her glow softening. "No, Ethan, you have not caused discomfort. I have been cautious. I did not want to overstep boundaries you humans hold dear." Her words were gentle, but they carried weight. Ethan realized that she was trying in her own way to respect him, not just physically, but emotionally. Her species had no shame in their bodies, no fear in revealing their true selves. On Ear, the natural form was a celebration and emotion was not hidden. Yet here she was, bending herself to understand human limits. "I don't want things to be strange between us," Ethan admitted, nervously picking at his food. "I mean, I don't want this incident to change anything." Liren leaned forward slightly, resting her hands on the table. "It will not," she said firmly, though her tendrils twitched nervously. "I value your trust, Ethan. You allowed me into your personal space, and that is significant. Humans do not often do this. To be seen in vulnerability, it is an honor." Ethan froze. Vulnerability. That was exactly what he had felt, and he hadn't known how to name it. It was frightening, and yet, there was a strange comfort in her words. "I don't know if I'm brave," he said quietly. "I just didn't have a choice, and I guess I didn't hate it." Her glow intensified slightly, and she tilted her head, studying him. "You did not hate it?" she asked, almost incredulously. "No," he said, meeting her eyes. "Not if it helped you understand me." There was a long pause. Ethan could feel the tension, the mix of hesitation and curiosity hanging in the air like an invisible thread connecting them. Then Liren reached out, not touching him, but extending one hand toward the edge of the table. Her tendrils flickered, showing her own nervousness. "Humans are fragile in ways we do not understand fully," she said softly. "Yet you survive, you endure, you feel so deeply. That is beautiful. I cannot hide my admiration." Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to laugh, he wanted to cry, he wanted to retreat, but all of those impulses collided at once. He realized something he hadn't admitted even to himself. He was drawn to her, not just drawn. He cared for her deeply in ways that made him feel exposed and alive at the same time. For a moment, the world outside disappeared. The glowing city, the hum of distant engines, even the table before them, all of it faded. There was only Liren, her gentle voice, her glowing eyes, and the undeniable emotion between them. "I care about you too," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes widened slightly, the glow in her skin pulsing like soft silver light. She leaned closer, but not too close, just enough to show her excitement and restraint at the same time. "You do?" she asked softly. "Yes," he admitted, heart pounding. "I didn't know how to say it before. I'm afraid sometimes, but I can't stop feeling it." Liren's tendrils lifted gently, a movement Ethan had now learned meant happiness or delight. "Then I am glad," she said softly. "I was afraid you would see me differently after that morning, but now I think perhaps you understand me better." He nodded slowly, a sense of relief washing over him. For the first time, he felt truly seen, not for appearances, not for strength, not for anything except who he was in that moment. And that was enough. Outside, the alien city shimmered with the light of 1,000 stars. Inside, two beings from completely different worlds shared a quiet understanding, bridging the cultural gap with patience, respect, and growing affection. And in that shared silence, Ethan realized something powerful. Sometimes the hardest boundaries to cross are not walls of distance or language, but walls built around the heart. And for the first time since that morning, he felt ready to step forward, into connection, into trust, into something neither human nor alien had fully experienced before. The next evening, the apartment felt warmer than usual. The alien sun was setting, painting the walls with soft hues of violet and gold. Ethan had finished his studies early and found Liren sitting cross-legged on the floor, her tendrils slowly curling around her. She was humming a quiet song from her homeworld, a melody that made the room feel both peaceful and alive. Ethan hesitated at first. He didn't want to interrupt her, didn't want to break the delicate calm that had formed between them over the past few days. But something inside him urged him forward, something he couldn't quite name yet. Liren, he began softly, his voice trembling slightly. Can we talk? Her eyes flicked toward him, glowing faintly, and she nodded. Of course, Ethan, about what? He took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions inside him. About that morning, the one when you walked in. She tilted her head, a gentle glow highlighting the curves of her face. I have thought about it often, she said softly, and I worry that I caused you discomfort. Ethan shook his head, feeling the heat in his chest. No, not discomfort, at least not the kind that's bad. I felt something else, something I didn't understand at first. But now, he trailed off, unsure how to put the emotions into words. Liren leaned forward slightly, her tendrils twitching gently, signaling curiosity and concern. Now I realize, Ethan said slowly, that I felt safe. Strange, right? Being seen like that without clothes, without barriers. And instead of feeling embarrassed, I felt exposed in a good way, and also alive. Her glow flickered softly, a response he had come to recognize as emotional warmth. Exposed, alive, I understand, she whispered. I saw your vulnerability, Ethan, and I was moved by it. That moment was honest, pure, and I could not hide my delight at seeing you as you truly are. Ethan's heart skipped. Your delight? He asked quietly, almost afraid to hear her answer. Yes, Liren said, her voice soft but unwavering. I could not hide it, for your form, your presence, your very being, it touched me in a way I cannot fully describe. Humans have emotions so rich and complex. I am honored to witness them. He swallowed hard. The warmth in his chest expanded, spreading to his arms and legs, filling him with a strange, overwhelming tenderness. He wanted to reach out to touch her tendrils gently, to hold her hand, but he hesitated, afraid he might overstep. Liren seemed to sense his hesitation. She leaned closer, just enough to let him feel her presence fully, and said, You do not need to be afraid. I will not harm you. I only wish to be near to understand, to share this moment. Ethan exhaled slowly, letting the tension in his body loosen. I care about you too, Liren, he admitted softly, words catching in his throat. More than I thought I could care about anyone. You've changed how I see things, how I feel. Her eyes widened, the soft glow around her intensifying slightly. You care about me? She whispered, almost in disbelief. Even after the morning. Yes, he said firmly. Especially after that morning. I saw how you were, honest with your feelings, how you respected me even while feeling what you felt. That meant more than I can explain. A quiet silence followed, filled only by the hum of distant city life and the soft rhythm of Liren's tendrils moving gently. But in that silence, Ethan felt a connection deeper than words. A bridge between human and alien, built on honesty, vulnerability, and growing affection. Finally, Liren spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan, in your vulnerability, I saw your strength. In your courage to exist as yourself, you showed me what it means to care, to trust, and to feel. And I am grateful. Ethan's chest tightened, his eyes glistening slightly. He felt something he had never felt before, an emotion that was part awe, part longing, part comfort. I'm grateful too, he said softly. Grateful that you're here, that I can be myself around you. She smiled gently, a smile that lit the room like soft silver light. Then let us be honest with each other, Ethan, she said. No barriers, no pretense, only truth, only understanding. He nodded slowly, feeling a weight lift from him, replaced by warmth and hope. Yes, he whispered, only truth. In that quiet apartment, two beings from different worlds shared a moment that neither had expected. They sat together, hearts exposed yet safe, emotions flowing freely, and the unspoken bond between them grew stronger. For the first time, Ethan realized that vulnerability was not weakness. it was courage. And with Liren by his side, he felt ready to face anything, no matter how strange or alien, as long as they faced it together. The next morning, the alien city shimmered with a soft, golden light. Ethan and Liren had decided to explore one of the supply hubs, a massive structure floating above the city where merchants from dozens of worlds traded exotic goods. Ethan was curious about alien technology, while Liren wanted to see how humans adapted to strange surroundings. Everything seemed normal at first. Ethan marveled at the floating crates and shimmering displays, while Liren pointed out subtle details about energy flow and gravity that fascinated him. They laughed quietly when a hovering fruit bounced past them, nearly knocking Liren off balance. For a moment, the ordinary beauty of life felt almost magical. But the calm didn't last long. A sudden energy flare erupted from one of the malfunctioning machines. Sparks flew, and a burst of hot plasma shot across the platform. The crowd panicked, scattering in every direction. Ethan froze for a heartbeat, his mind racing. Liren's glow intensified sharply, tendrils bristling in alarm. "Ethan, move," she shouted. Instinct took over. Ethan saw a small alien child frozen in place, unaware of the danger. Without thinking, he lunged forward and shoved the child out of the path of the flare. Pain exploded through his side as a piece of debris struck him, knocking him to the metal floor. He gasped, struggling to breathe. His ribs burned and his vision blurred. He could hear the chaos around him, people screaming, alarms ringing, but all he could think about was Liren. She reached him almost instantly. Her tendrils flared wildly, glowing deep blue, a color Ethan had learned meant extreme fear. She knelt beside him, her hands hovering over his chest as if she could somehow pull the pain away with her touch. "Ethan, stay awake," she yelled, her voice trembling. "You cannot leave me." "I'm okay," he whispered, each word a struggle. The pain was sharp, unforgiving, but he couldn't focus on it. All he could focus on was her, the concern in her glowing eyes, the worry that radiated from her very being. "No, you are not okay," she cried, wrapping her tendrils carefully around his torso. "Humans break too easily, and I cannot lose you, Ethan. Whoa." Her words hit him harder than the debris ever could. Fear, love, and desperation blended into something almost unbearable. For the first time, he truly saw the depth of her emotions. Not the calm, measured Liren he had known, but the raw, untamed feelings of a being who cared deeply. "Liren," he managed to whisper, chest burning with pain and something else entirely. "Why do you care so much?" Her eyes glimmered with a mixture of fear and wonder. Because the day I saw you without walls, without shame, I saw who you truly are, and I have cherished you since. I cannot imagine my existence without you, Ethan. You mean everything to me." The pain in his ribs made it hard to breathe, but Ethan reached up, placing a shaky hand over hers. I feel the same," he gasped. "I care more than I thought I could, and I—" He coughed sharply, cutting himself off, but Liren tightened her hold, her glow softening in reassurance. "SHH, breathe. I am here. You are not alone. I will not let you go." Around them, chaos continued. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and distant shouts echoed through the metallic hall. But in that small space, surrounded by debris and danger, Ethan and Liren were alone in a bubble of urgent, overwhelming emotion. He realized, in a painful yet beautiful clarity, that the bond between them was stronger than fear, stronger than danger. Vulnerability had brought them together, but now trust and love were binding them even tighter. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, feeling her warmth, her concern, and the undeniable reality of their connection. He had faced many challenges since leaving Earth: gravity sickness, language barriers, strange foods, but nothing had ever tested his heart the way this moment did. Finally, the flare subsided, and the chaos began to calm. Medics and security arrived, helping the injured, guiding the frightened. Liren stayed by Ethan's side, her tendrils holding him close as he was carefully lifted to safety. Through the pain, Ethan whispered, "Thank you for saving me." Her glow softened to a gentle silver, tender and quiet. "Do not thank me, Ethan. I could not have done otherwise. You are part of my life now. I will always protect you." Ethan's chest tightened, but this time with something warm, something alive. In that dangerous moment, he realized the truth. Love and courage could cross any boundary, planetary, cultural, or even species, and he was ready to face whatever came next, as long as Liren was by his side.